So quickly, we want to differentiate x plus 2 over x minus 1 using first principle. Alright, so solution. So what's the formula for first principle? Say, when you have dy over dx, so this is, you can actually call this change in y over change in x, or delta y over delta x. This is equal to the general formula now, as lim delta x tends to 0, f of x plus delta x minus f of x over what? Delta x. So this is the formula. This is the formula, right? So you have to rewrite this in terms of what we have here, in terms of our y, right? Now look at what I mean. You have delta y over delta x is equal to as lim delta x tends to what? 0. Here we now have what? X plus delta x plus 2. Right? Over what? X plus delta x minus 1. So we are writing this in terms of what we have here. Right? Minus f of x, which is this, x plus 2 over x minus 1. Is that clear? Now, all these over what? The x. Note that from here, now you can actually separate this from delta x. This could be equal to maybe all this, f over delta, f of x plus delta x minus f of x, all this times 1 over delta x. You know, this is the same thing as this. So applying this knowledge now, this delta x can be outside here. You can actually multiply this to give all these times 1 over delta x. Right? Yeah. So here we have delta y over delta x is equal to as lim delta x tends to 0. What do you do next? You find the LCM. The LCM of x plus delta x minus 1 and x minus 1 is what? X plus delta x minus 1 minus 1 x minus 1. So this is the LCM. So all this, divide this by this. If you divide this by this will cancel out, right? You now have x minus 1. You use x minus 1 to multiply this. Is that clear? It's just like when you have, maybe, let's say 1 over 2. You want to find simplify this fraction. Minus, let's say, 1 over 3. Something like this. The LCM of this is what? This and this. 2 and 3. Right? Which is what? 6. 6. So 6 divided by 2 will give you what? 3. 3 times 1 will give you 3. Right? You have your minus. 6 divided by 2 will give you, 6 divided by 3 will give you 2. 2 times 1 will give you 2. You now have 1 over 6. So applying this now, this LCM divided by this, you have x minus 1 times this. You now have x minus 1 times x plus delta x plus 2 minus, you do the same thing here. If this denominator divide this, you will be left with x plus x, the delta x minus 2 times this. You have x plus delta x minus 1. Remember, you have what? Times 1 over delta x outside the whole of this. Right? So what do you do next? You simplify further. Simplifying further entails using this x minus 1 to open up this parenthesis. So this x, we multiply the first one, multiply the second one, multiply the third one. Then you come back, use this minus 1 to multiply the first one,
multiply the second one, multiply the third one. You'd apply the same thing here, right? If you do that, you have what? First of all, write this down. The y over the x equal to, as lim, delta x tends to 0. X times x will give you what? X squared plus, if you multiply also, it will give you what? X delta x. X times 2 will give you what? 2x. Right? You now use minus 1 to multiply this also. Here we have what? Minus x minus delta x minus 2. Right? Minus, what do you have here? X times x. You have x squared. Remember, you have to recognize this minus, this negative sign here. So let me first of all open up this, then after I'll use this negative to multiply through, so you don't get confused. Alright, so this time this will give you x squared, this time this will give you what? X delta x. Right? This time this will give you what? Minus x. 2 times this will give you what? 2x plus 2x. This time this will give you what? X delta x. This times this will give you what? Minus 2. Right? Over what? Remember your LCM here. What you have? Your denominator. So I mean your denominator. Yeah. X plus delta x minus 1 over x minus 1. Remember, you have something outside, which is what? 1 over delta x. 1 over delta x. Is that clear? This is what you have outside. Now, let me rewrite this and open up this bracket. Then I'll collect like terms. If you do that, you have what? Delta y over delta x equal to slim as delta x tends to 0. Here we have what? X squared plus x delta x plus 2x minus x minus delta x minus 2 minus x squared minus x delta x plus, because when you have minus times minus, it will give you plus, x minus 2x minus x delta x plus 2. All this over what? All this over what? What you have here? X plus delta x minus 1. X minus 1. Remember, you still have something outside, which is 1 over delta x. Right? Now, what do? You collect like terms and cancel out. You have x squared here minus x squared here. X minus x squared, it will go. We have x delta x here, right? You have minus x delta x here. This will also cancel this. What about 2x? You have 2x here. You have minus 2x here. What next? You have minus x here. And we have plus x here. It will also cancel out. What about minus delta x? It will not cancel out, so we still have it. Right? Okay, so what next is cancelling out? Okay, we have we have minus 2 here and 2 here. It will also cancel out. So we are left with what? We are left with minus delta s and minus s delta s, right? So this is equal to delta y by delta x goes as lame as delta x tends to what? 0. You have what? Minus delta s minus s delta s all over x plus delta x minus 1. This bracket x minus 1. Remember, you still have something outside, which is 1 over delta x. Right? So at this point, you now divide. Now, you make use of this what? 1 over delta S. So this will cancel what? This and this. Or you can actually interpret it in this way, that you can factor out delta S from this. If you factor out delta S from this, you'll be left with what? Minus 1. Minus 1 and what? Minus X. So this is what you'll be left with. Right? Let me make sure I'm correct. Okay. Yeah, this is correct. So this will cancel this. So we have what? And also, as the delta X tends to 0, but before that, let me write this out first. Is equal to lim as delta X tends to 0. You have what? Minus 1 minus X over what? X plus delta X minus 1. X minus 1. Right? So at this point now, as delta S tends to 0, that means you substitute 0 for delta S. You now have what? Minus 1 minus X over X minus 1. X minus 1, which is equal to minus 1 minus X over X minus 1 squared. As simple as that. Right? You can also factor out this minus here. Maybe if you want to solve for that, to give you what? Minus 1 plus X all over X minus 1 squared. As simple as that.